I'm Emilie Gouzien and this is Trish Watkins. We are both lawyers in the private client department here at Goffs. I'm here today to talk about mental capacity with Trish, who heads up our vulnerable client specialism. So Trish, in terms of a client's coming to see us, they've got a query about mental capacity, how would you describe it to them?
It's quite a difficult set of circumstances to explain to people, but essentially if they're looking for advice from us, we need to, as lawyers, to be sure that they're understanding what they're entering into, that they're fully able to kind of weigh up any pros and cons of making that decision and giving them the guidance that they need in order to help them make that decision sometimes. So it's a really important thing that we have to establish. We'll do that really through a course of talking to the client and making sure they're comfortable and asking salient points and questions that will indicate to us then whether there's potentially an issue or not. It's difficult, but it's something really important that we have to do.
One of our roles is to prepare mental capacity assessments. How would you go about doing that?
We see all kinds of clients, all age groups, all abilities. But one thing that's really important as lawyers to establish is that the person you're looking after and helping actually understands what they're entering into. A lot of the work we do is obviously legally binding. It's very important. So we need to make sure that they understand fully the ins and outs of what they're going into and whether there are any consequences of doing it or not doing it. The important things we need to establish is that they can understand, that they can retain that information long enough, that they can weigh up. So they need to be able to, well, what if I didn't do it? What would the consequence be? And then communicate as well. That's really important. If any of those fail, so for any reason, if somebody can't fulfill any of that criteria, then we might need to consider a mental capacity assessment by a specialist who's specifically trained for that. We do have a lot of experience in our team with mental capacity assessments, but ultimately we're not medical professionals, but we certainly have more than sufficient knowledge to be able to make that judgment call one way or the other normally. It's really important that we get it right, and bearing in mind as well, it's a very personal thing. So making sure that the client is comfortable, especially if, for example, they're having problems with memory, that kind of thing. It's about making sure that they're able to do what they want to do and helping them achieve that decision making.
And as you say, under the Mental Capacity Act, we're weighing up different parts of the assessment. What would be the 5 principles that you'd be looking at under the Capacity Act?
The starting principle is that you must start from a presumption that the client does have capacity. So just because somebody's looking a little bit ragged around the edges doesn't mean that they haven't got capacity. You have to satisfy yourself that actually it's not the case, they don't have capacity. And by doing that, you need to do supported assistance with decision making. So if somebody, for example, has a physical disability, then you make reasonable adjustments to the conversation, to the way you present things. So you might have diagrams for some people. You might talk about slices of the pie as opposed to complicated percentages or anything like that. So you really tailor it to the client, making sure that whatever you do is the least restrictive option. And that's really critical because you don't need to use a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Just do what you need to do to get that decision made.
We see clients, we see loved ones come in concerned about someone's capacity. How would we at Goffs be able to help those people?
It's always a trying time when anybody's capacity is in question. It's frightening for the individual and for their family and friends. So we provide a really supportive background for them to rely on, really, to navigate through that difficult process, to establish what their needs are, how we can help. We've got the expertise, we've got a fantastic team around us that really love helping people. And I think that's really key, is making that emotional kind of relationship work with a client to remove that fear and to remove that uncertainty and to give them a solid base that they can move forward on.
That's the whistle-stop tour around mental capacity. So if you have any queries or a loved one has any queries, please feel free to contact Goff Solicitors.